Somebody up here in Ohio doesn't like us. It's the third sign I've seen X'd and marked out.
On June 6th, I drove up and left my car in Covington, Kentucky, which is just across the border from Cincinnati. From there, I rode north on US BRS 25, hoping to make it to Dayton. But I didn't make it that way due to detours and all types of other problems. So I stayed in Middletown at a hotel. The next day, I got on the Great Miami River Trail and made my way to Eastwood Park, where I also visited the National Air Force Museum. The following day, I've continued on the Great Miami River Trail to the end of it in Piqua and made my way to Sidney, where I also stayed in a hotel. The next day, I made my own route up to Van Wert, where I got a hotel. And then the next day, I made it over towards New Haven, Indiana, where I stayed in a house with relatives of mine and also visited my parents' grave. From there, I went back into Ohio, made my way to the Independence Dam State Park campground just east of Defiance, Ohio. From there, I continued my journey east over to Stony Ridge, where I stayed at a KOA campground. And from there, I continued on to Sandusky, which was quite pretty, and stayed in a hotel there, and also enjoyed riding along the river the next day as I made my way south to the Finley State Park campground, where I stayed in a tent that night. The following day, I made my way back southeast through Worcester and picked up the OTET and made it down to Millersburg, where I stayed in a hotel. The last day of the trip was back southwest to Westerville, which was the actual end of my trip. I actually did have to end it a couple days early, which you will find out why at the end of the video. So all in all, this was a good trip. I had fantastic weather. Okay, let's get into it.
Let's talk logistics for this Ohio bike ride. So I drove up yesterday from the Middle Tennessee area up here to Covington, Kentucky. Last night I was in a La Quinta Inn, just about 10-15 miles up the road. So to start this ride, the problem was always trying to find out where to leave your car if you actually do drive somewhere and want to leave your vehicle somewhere. So I looked all around Cincinnati and I really didn't find anything good, so it's always better to go to the small towns. So I came south across the river and I'm here in Covington, Kentucky. So there's a pretty good parking garage here. If you ever want to come up here, this is the ABM parking facility, and this is the Midtown garage. And so here I've got my car already locked up, ready to go. I've got my bicycle all loaded up and it's ready to go. So I'm ready to head north. So you may ask, well, how much did this cost me? Well, typically, some parking garages will let you keep your cars overnight, and this one does. And I called around to a few of them. And typically what you can do is you pay by the hour, by the day, but this one lets you pay by month. And I think theirs is about $50 to $55. But I talked to a gentleman, and he said, well, just take a ticket when you come in, and then when you leave, just say that you lost your ticket. There's actually an option, I guess, to do that. And then it will just request that you pay $20. He said that's probably about a fair price for the amount of time that I'm going to be here, which is about 2 weeks. So that works out pretty good, and they were really nice to talk to. I will say the only thing I do find a little disconcerting about this garage is, I'll pan around a little bit, there's no cameras. And I did actually call the Covington Police Department before I came down to this area, and they are still a little surprised that the ABM hasn't invested in cameras. So, that's good and bad. There's a lot of cameras. It seems like you're on cameras everywhere. But I do have an Apple AirTag on my car, so if it moves, I'll know it. Well, that's just the way it is. So maybe at least I'll be able to inform someone about it has been moved and possibly stolen. So, you can't take all the risk out of life. Without any risk, there's no reward. All right, so that's the logistics for this trip. I think it's time to make tracks north.
This is the alien that's attached to the outside of the ABM parking garage in Covington, Kentucky. There'll be a few more voiceovers in this video again, since I'm still having problems with my microphone that I sent back to DJI to get fixed.
I'm going to call this the official start of my tour, since this is the John A. Roebling Bridge, which spans between Covington, Ohio that way to Cincinnati, and my loop is all up in Ohio. So fantastic bridge, really beautiful. Well, that was fun coming across the bridge. I didn't see a welcome to Ohio sign or anything like that, but oh well. I'm now in Cincinnati, Ohio, and there it is. Paycor Stadium. Hey, there's a GE building. General Electric. My dad worked for them for 35 years. All right, so I've made it to what they call the Queen City, Cincinnati. They have a carousel in an enclosure. Really fancy. See that? It's enclosed in a big, huge building. My wife would love that. Cincinnati even made me a way I could get my bike down the stairs. They got a little channel cut here. Let's see if we can show that. Ha, pretty cool.
Today is what I will call a 50-50 day. It was half climbing and half hard route finding, and then once I hit Fairfield, the rest of it was on the Great Miami River Trail, which is pretty flat and easy to do.
All right, guys, take care. Have fun, guys. You too. Yep. I've been traveling this busy road ever since I left Cincinnati, and now I'm on Pippin Road, and it's very little shoulder and lots of traffic. So I've only got maybe another 8 miles of this, and then I'll hit the Greater Miami River Trail or something like that. This tour is a definite contrast between the Natchez Trace, where basically we started in Natchez, Mississippi, and got on the Trace, and it was just a tunnel of trees for 400 miles. This tour has been, well, at least for the first 22 miles this morning, has been pretty chaotic. Going through downtown Cincinnati and trying to get out of Cincinnati through busy roads. I was going to take the US Bicycle Route 25 north of town, and I use it for a few miles, but then there's a walking and bike path detour. So I took the detour sign, and then I never saw another one. That's like, oh my God, if you're gonna take us on a detour, then tell us where we're going, make sure we're going correctly. So I had to make up my own route. So a lot of dangerous urban riding. Hold on. Busy. Wow, that's cool, an old-fashioned edge trimmer. That's the way to do it. So I had to make up my own route. I survived. It was a pretty chaotic 22 miles to get out of town. That's why I didn't record a whole lot through there. But now I'm going through a nice little neighborhood. I've dropped down towards the lake. I'm headed up here to a park. I think it's called Hyde Park. And I think it's a southern terminus of the Great Miami River Trail, which will take me all the way up to Dayton, Ohio, and a little bit farther north. So I'm gonna go from lots of traffic to probably zero traffic on the rail to trail. So, hey, it's a great morning. Sure beats sitting in front of the computer and working. I made it to the Fairfield Waterworks Park. This is the southern terminus of the Great Miami River Trail. I've had a little bit of a slight tailwind and side wind. Hasn't been too bad at all. So. It's almost 5 o'clock and I've got 53 miles and I actually left it. I think got on the road, gosh, I guess about 9. So it's been a really long day. I think the majority of the time, well, here's a room for the night. Made it here. I think the majority of the time was actually spent route finding. I had so many problems with routes and detours and tons of traffic. I had to ride lots of sidewalks today because through these little towns, they were not conducive at all to bicycles. Just no shoulder at all. It's just road and curb. So, oh boy, I tell you, hopefully tomorrow I'll have to do better with route finding. Then I had a problem getting back onto that great little river trail back in some little town. I can't remember the name of it. Had a real problem. Had to backtrack and all right, that's enough. Well, let's get the room and tonight it's gonna. All right, we're here. Let's get the room and get showered. And tonight it's going to be a Domino's delivery because I'm not going back out in that traffic. That was just too much for one day.
Today's route finding was much easier. I basically just went west and picked up the Great Miami River Trail, where I took that all the way into Dayton. And then I made my way out just a little bit east to the Eastwood Metro Park, where I camped for the night. I also spent the afternoon going to the National Air Force Museum.
So, let's do it.
Here's an equine thrift store in Middletown, Ohio. Middletown is halfway between Cincinnati and Dayton. They also have a demonstration here, a mock setup, if you would, of how the canal system works, which flows through this area. They actually have movable gates that you can control the water flow. I thought this was actually a really cool demonstration to learn how it works on a small scale. Here you can see I'm actually moving the gate. Is this the US hotel or us hotel? Now, if you notice, if you watch any of my other videos, you know I like to take pictures of the small theaters in the towns that I go through.
I made it to Miamisburg, and this city park I'm in is really brand new. They set it open just about 3 weeks ago. And I also asked, so what's the deal with everything being named Miami in this area? So I didn't know, I had to ask. And they said it's due to the Miami Indian tribes that were very prevalent in southwestern Ohio. So now you know. And I commented that, well, the Miami here is probably a lot better than the Miami in Florida. And we can all pretty much figure that. I've got about another 15 miles to make it to Dayton. I'm not sure, maybe another 5 miles after that to get to the Air Force Museum. I can't remember the name of it, whatever. But that's where I'm headed to. Still a beautiful day. Picked up a little bit of headwind, but that's all right. This is a large tower with a lot of bells in it near West Carlton or Carlton, Ohio, just south of Dayton.
This is a really cool bike sculpture along the Great Miami River Trail just southwest of Dayton, Ohio. I was really impressed by this. I rode along the river just along, I guess this is the flood wall, and there are lots and lots of bridges along this whole section. I don't know how many there were, they just kept coming and coming. But here I found the confluence of the Great Miami River and the Mad River, which goes off here to the right. I made it to the Eastwood Metro Park and located my campground, which I'll come back to later after I visit the National Museum of the United States Air Force. This is the missile gallery in the museum. It's in a 140-foot high silo and has examples of the Minuteman, Jupiter, and Atlas missiles. And here in front of you, the black plane is the SR-71 Blackbird, an amazing airplane. But above it, this white plane is a very unique jet. There's only 2 of them built. One crashed. This is the only surviving one. It's called the XB-70, and it is huge. I mean, just compare the sizes. The SR-71 is still a large plane, but it is absolutely dwarfed by this XB-70. It's just huge. Just look at the size of the intakes for the engines. Ah, here we go. They've got away. You've got to be able to look at the tail of this thing. It's incredible. All right, you can see me. Now here's the engines. It has 6. Look at the size of those engines. Oh my God. Is that incredible?
Those things are huge. All right, I'll get out of it. But can you imagine all 6 of these? Oh, it's kind of hard to see across here, but it's incredible. Here is a B-2 bomber. Oh, that thing's just incredible looking. God, look how black this thing is. I mean, it's hard to see. That's actually a wing. This is the underneath of the wing. Gosh, how dark. And it's huge. This thing is just ginormous. Incredible. Let's see if we can get a look upon high. That's incredible. I'm at the Eastwood Park, and this is the Mad River with another nice little flow of rapids. It's very windy tonight, so I'd have a hard time simmering for quite a while, so we're just going to do it, keep it really simple tonight with lasagna, and that's about it. I picked up a new stove and pot for this trip. I've got the little MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe, and it works really well in windy conditions. I'm glad I got it because it's really windy out here today. It's been blowing anywhere from 15 to 25 miles an hour all day. I also picked up a nice little Toaks, T-O-A-K-S titanium pot. This is the 1.1 liter size, and it works really well because I can get my bottle and my stove. And I also carry a little bottle of Dawn dish detergent, and let's see. Oh, I also carry a scrubby so I can scrub, see, scrubby, so I can scrub the pot if need be. So it worked out really well tonight because it boiled the water really, really fast. I'm gonna head on a little bit farther east and head to the campsite. It's getting towards dusk. It's about 10 to 9 o'clock here in Dayton, Ohio at the Eastwood City Park. The sun's almost set. I think last light's at 9:23. I've got everything put away for the most part. Got the tent all ready. I've got all my stuff inside I need for the night. I think it's going to be a good night of camping. The wind has died down. I would have liked to have a little bit of breeze to come through the tent, but I think it's going to get down to about 55, 58 degrees tonight. So it's really good camping. I've gotten really lucky on the weather during this trip so far. All right, well, that's probably about it for the day. It's about 5:45 on Saturday morning. I slept pretty good last night in this little Eastwood Park. It was really good sleeping here in the tent. Excuse me. First night's always a little tough to get used to the tent, but that's all right. It's all good. Not much wildlife around, although the birds are definitely getting pretty active. That's what has woken me up this morning. I think it's going to be another beautiful day. Not sure what the temperature is. It feels like it's about 50. Well, maybe not that cold. I'm going to say it's about 55 to 58 right now. That's what my internal temperature gauge is telling me. All right, till later. I was up at 5:45. That's when I shot my first video this morning in an hour. I've got everything packed up, ready to go. Not too bad. I'm getting in the routine. Could have done it faster, but it's not a race.
Today's route was pretty straightforward. All I had to do was just follow the Great Miami River Trail till it ended in Piqua. I ended up riding with a group of Boy Scouts getting ready to do Goba. And then I used my own route to get to Sidney. I made it to Piqua. This is the northern terminus of the Great Miami River Trail. I spotted this post, and then as I got closer, I realized it's a bunch of locks. Thought this was pretty cool. Usually see this on fences, but it was nice to see that they gave people a place to put all the locks.
I am now north of Piqua, Ohio, on Route 40, also known as River Road. But it's nice to be out in the country again.
This last section, which I'm going to narrate, of course, I still had mic problems, but oh well. So I'm getting closer to Sidney, and I found some nice open country here to ride through. It was really enjoyable to see farmland. As I got closer to Sidney, I found a little bit of trail I could use, and I needed to get up into a neighborhood in order to get to the hotel that night, but what I found was this really steep bike path, which would allow me to get there. So of course I tried it and put it in the lowest gear, and as you can see, I'm struggling, and it's getting slower and slower, and that was it. Unfortunately, my computer didn't tell me the gradient, but I estimate this was about a 20% gradient. I was actually kind of surprised that they had this gradient on a bike path. I can only imagine people going down this and not having really good brakes. But I did finally make it to the top and made it to the hotel, and unfortunately I didn't record anything else for this day, so that's about it for a wrap. I did have lots of headwind today though, but it was not too bad. Today's route was windy. It took me 6 hours to do the 60 miles, so you can do the math on the average. But the roads were really nice, and the little towns that I went through were really quaint and enjoyable to see. All in all, it was still a great day.
This is Sunday morning on June 9th. It's 6:57. I'm getting on the road. I'm getting ready to head to Van Wert to secure a camping spot at Timberwoods Campground, although I haven't heard from them, despite sending me a couple messages and emails. So let's hope they have a site there for me tonight. It's going to be headwinds all day out of the northwest, and I'm headed northwest. They're really going to start picking up, I guess, around 11 o'clock, where it's going to be 17 to 25 miles an hour. So I'm trying to get an early start to try to beat the majority of the strong winds. The wind is not too bad right now. The flag's a little slack, so that's maybe a 5 mile an hour wind. But I'm now leaving the Motel 6 here. I'm going to head west. So here we go. Passing lots of farms along all these nice quiet roads. For the hour I've been riding, I've only been passed by 3 vehicles, so that's pretty nice. Right now it's almost 8 o'clock. It's only 60 degrees, so I think it's only supposed to be up to about 72, 73 today. The first little goal for the day is Fort Laramie. This is where I tried to get a campsite last night, but I can never get a response.
This was a very tall Catholic church in Fort Laramie. I saw this for miles as I came into the town from the south. The video doesn't do it justice how tall this really is. It must have been a beacon for everybody. Here's another neat little ice cream shop that I keep seeing up here in Ohio.
It's a nice little park here in New Bern, Ohio. Even lions and cats. This is obviously part of the canal system here. Local boys called hoggies would lead mules along the towpath, pulling the canal boats for several miles before switching off with another hoagie further down the canal. 1 to 3 mules would be used for this task. The Bicycle Museum of America. And if you look close, you can see it's Sunday and it's closed. I guess I'll just have to come back to New Bern, Ohio some other time, because I just talked to a gentleman a minute ago and he said, yeah, there's some really great bikes in there. In the window here, I can see a Schwinn Varsity. I find it interesting that they have those in the museum, because I worked on these back in the 80s, but I guess that's a museum piece. This one says 1876. Well, it's a pretty little town here, New Bern. They got some really nice architecture. As you can see here behind me, it's really quite pretty. There seems to be quite a bit of German influence. Over here behind me, a place called Schweiderman's Drugs. Boy, if that's not German, I don't know what is. So, okay, well, bummer, bummer, bummer. Next time, right? Well, I don't know if there'll be a next time here, but we'll see. Today on Sunday, was here at the Subway. My leg's been feeling a little dead today. I got some caffeine in it, some chicken, some salt, some potato chips, so about another 30 miles to head to Van Wert. And it's gonna be windy.
I guess I was getting a little bored on the way to Van Wert. So we've all played the game. You see roadkill and you wonder what it is. So I came across this one, and leave your suggestion in the comments as to what you think this one is. You really can't see the wind, so here's my demonstration of the headwind I had for the day. I'm really glad they put this post out here, because I would have never known what I've been passing through the day.
I just did about a 4 or 5 mile section there, and I think the fastest I went was 8 miles an hour. The forecast for today, it's about 2:20 p.m. and they said it's about 17 to 30 miles an hour. It's all of that. And there's definitely some gusts, that's for sure. So it's a tough day. You can probably hear it in the microphone, that's for sure. Sorry for the wind noise, but this will give you a good idea of what it's like out here. I have made it to the town of Van Wert. This town never looked so good after fighting that wind for 3 hours or longer out there. Well, now 4 hours, excuse me. Well, let's take a look at the little town here. Wow, look at this big building. Is this the courthouse? Wow, look at that.
After a long day in the saddle with the wind, it was another night at a hotel, because the camping options didn't work out here in the town of Van Wert. As you can see, yes, the wind forecast was 18 to 28, and it definitely blew hard today. Here's some nice little pictures I took during the day's ride. I noticed a lot of houses here have their own little private pond. I found that really kind of interesting. I guess they must use them in the winter or something. I'm not really sure. Someone actually tries to lift my bicycle. A gentleman accused me of scoping his house out to steal his horses. I visited my parents' grave. I made it to the town of Sword, population 1, and my water bottle got lost under a truck.